Hey everybody, this is Benna with TapRooT TV. Welcome back for another week. Today we're going to talk about corrective actions. We talked to you a lot about being proactive in your investigation so things don't happen. But however, when they do, the investigation basically is not complete until you have your corrective actions. Correct?
That's right. And corrective actions are the most important part of your investigation. So it's actually my favorite topic to talk about.
Well, I've heard you say that without the corrective actions, an investigation is nothing more than an exercise, a paper exercise, basically.
It is. It is. And so, one thing when I talk to people about corrective actions is you have to consider everything you do in life. There's inputs and there's outputs. Mm-hmm. So the output is the result of whatever you did. Well, when you do an investigation, the output are your corrective actions. So without a good output, you've just spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money to not get a very good result. So corrective actions really are the most important part of any investigation.
So why do people not do good corrective actions? Because we know that that's why a lot of times things happen over and over. You end up with repeat incidents.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you have repeat incidents in your company, the reason for it is probably because your corrective actions aren't very effective. There's a lot of reasons for it. Mm-hmm. Some of them we can help you with TapRooT. Some of them we really can't help you with, but there's a lot of reasons, and we'll just cover a few of them.
Okay.
The first one is, corrective actions are always at the end of an investigation.
Yes.
Now, what happens at the end of anything? People are tired. They spent a lot of time, they spent a lot of effort. Maybe you've been working on this investigation for several weeks, and really at this point, you just want to get finished.
Yes.
Okay? So I've been fortunate in my life to work with a lot of different people, a lot of great leaders, a lot of great safety professionals, and I've learned a lot of good things. And unfortunately, every time you learn something, it's not so good, but that helps you learn other things, right? One person that is a well-known safety practitioner is this guy here.
Larry.
His name's, if you could see it, his name is Larry the Cable Guy. Okay?
I love him.
And what does Larry say?
Get her
Larry
done.
says, get her done. Get her done.
Exactly.
And so I think a lot of times that's what people do. They do a really good investigation, but then they get to the corrective action phase at the end, and they start to lose steam, and they remember what Larry said, and they say, get her done.
Right.
They write up a corrective action. They think it sounds really good. They get it closed out. Everybody's happy.
Right.
A month later, you have the same incident again.
Yes.
Okay. So that's one problem. Now we can't do anything about that because, quite frankly, corrective actions are always going to be at the end of an investigation.
Right. Because you don't know what to do until you have the actual root cause.
That's right. That's right. So we can't change that. The other thing we can't really change is the human nature part, where you're at the end of something, you just want to get finished.
Right.
And so hopefully you can kind of resist that temptation and really start to think about how important it is, even though you're getting tired, even though you're at the end.
When you can even be emotional.
Oh yeah, sure.
Depending on what kind of incident you're investigating and stuff.
Yeah. So that's the first reason people don't write great corrective actions. The next one is they kind of latch onto their same corrective actions over and over.
Yes.
Right. So if it sounded really good and management liked it. Well, let me just write the same thing again. And of course, we talk in our courses a lot about bias, when finding root causes and things like that, but it kind of works its way into corrective actions too.
Yes.
If you are a training person, you have a tendency to write training root causes, right?
And it feels like you're taking an action.
It does. And it may sound great on paper, and your management, your employees, your clients, whoever you're presenting the results to may think it sounds wonderful. But remember, it has to fix the root cause.
Right.
So I don't want to have a training corrective action unless I have a training root cause.
And the right root cause.
Yeah. So that's one thing is people just kind of jump to those favorite corrective actions. And what happens then is you're writing the same corrective actions over and over. Correct. If it didn't work last time, why is it going to work this time? It's probably not. Okay. So that's another thing to keep in mind. The other thing, and this is the part we could really help with, is a lot of people don't really know how to write great corrective actions. And so that's, writing corrective actions is a skill. And when you have a problem to solve, there's usually more than one way to fix it. There's creative ways to fix it, there's cheap ways to fix it, there's expensive ways to fix it, and what you have to do is a balancing act, and you really have to determine what is the best way for me to fix this, what's the best bang for my buck, and
so it won't happen again.
So it won't happen again because, again, you're trying to eliminate the root cause.
Right.
So we have a number of things we teach in our courses that can really help you with that. Now, the first one is the TapRooT Corrective Action Helper.
That's a great guide.
Yeah, and you get this with every course that you come to, and for every root cause on the TapRooT root cause tree, there's a section in here that gives you some great guidance. I'm trying to hold it up so I don't get a glare here.
That looks good. Yep.
But the book has a section for every single root cause on the root cause tree. So,
and if you've gone through the tree,
absolutely,
you should have come to the right root cause.
Exactly. So you can go there, and the Corrective Action Helper does a few things for you. First of all, it has a check, and I like to think of it as a check and balance. It basically says, are you sure this is what you want to fix? And it really makes you laser focused on what the root cause is that you're fixing. So that's kind of a good check and balance for yourself.
It really is, yes.
Yeah. Then it gives you suggestions for improvement. Because, for example, one of the root causes on the tree is labels needs improvement. So you had an incident, somebody turned the wrong valve handle, and you found out the label was bad on the valve. Okay, so that's labels need improvement. Well, I might be smart enough to get that far, but I'm not a labeling expert.
Right.
But the book is a labeling expert, and it's going to tell me what a good label looks like.
Yes.
Now, it's not going to give me my specific answer to my specific problem, but what I like about it is it's really going to force me to write better corrective actions. And it's going to give me some great guidance.
It could help you be more creative in what you're going to do versus what you did before.
It's going to make sure that you really consider everything that may help you. The other thing that's in the Corrective Action Helper is a prompt to look for generic causes.
Yes.
And for those of you that haven't been to our TapRooT courses, when we talk about generic causes, we mean systemic issues that allow root causes to exist, because that's really the level you want to fix things at. And then the last thing that the Corrective Action Helper has is references. So for example, let me refer back to my labels example. If I need some guidance on labeling, it'll tell me what some different reference materials are, labeling standards and things like that. So it's just really a wealth of information.
That book is golden.
Yeah, so the book is the number one thing that we can help you with as far as corrective actions.
That book is golden for sure.
Yeah.
And if you're using our software, it's built into the software.
Absolutely. So you can look it up in the book, or you can just click on a light bulb in the software and it'll pull up that page of the book.
I love that.
And so you do that when you're in the software and you're getting ready to write your corrective action, you've got a list of root causes to fix. There's a light bulb next to each root cause. Click on it. Corrective Action Helper's right in front of you. So you can read it and check it out, and it's really going to help you write better corrective actions.
So you fixed something.
Yeah.
You've actually fixed something, and it's not just something you've done over and over and over, and hopefully this is going to help you stop having repeat incidents.
Right.
Now, another tool we have is the safeguard.
Right, so we teach safeguards analysis in TapRooT, and if you're not familiar with TapRooT, you may have also heard the term barrier analysis. We use the term safeguards, but it's the same thing. The question is, how many layers of protection you have in place, how effective are they, and so forth. And we teach.
And Josh can put a slide up
Josh,
for us.
if you want to go ahead and put up the slide. This shows you a safeguard hierarchy. And so this is a really great tool. This is not hard to understand, but it's really, really important. And if you take a look at this, when you write your corrective actions, what you should really be doing is starting at the top of this matrix. You should start at the top and start to work your way down. Now, you can't always write corrective actions at the top. So, for example, if you look at this, the strongest thing you can do is to remove or reduce the hazard. You can't always remove the hazard.
Right.
If you can't remove it, maybe you can reduce it. And then you start to work your way down. Remove the target of the hazard. Right. You can guard the target. And then when you get down to 4, 5, and 6, you start to talk about improving human performance. And so as you can see, this goes from strongest to weakest.
Yes.
So again, I'm not saying that you can always write a number 1 or a number 2. And I'm also not saying that you don't need procedures or training. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is the minute you start to introduce humans in, it starts to become a little bit less effective. So
well, it's like you were saying, if you end up looking at this, and most of the time you have 5s or 6s as your corrective action aspect.
That's right. That's right. So here's your homework from the video. Go back and pull out a stack of reports from your company and take a look at the corrective actions.
Right.
And rank them. And if you start to see a lot of 5s and 6s, I have just given you the answer as to why you have repeat incidents.
Yes.
Okay, so
that's a great homework.
Yeah. So we're finished with that, Josh. If you want to go ahead and get rid of that. So that's really, really important. These tools will make you more disciplined when you write your corrective actions. They really will. And another thing that might help you is, when you're writing corrective actions, or a lot of people that are watching, maybe you also review other people's reports. So you may write corrective actions, but you also have some reports from other people come across your desk, and there's some things you can look out for.
Okay.
And I call these weak corrective actions. And I got these from Ken Turnbull, as one of our instructors, and about 8, 9, 10 years ago.
Man's got a lot of experience.
Yeah, he showed me a slide where he had some weak corrective actions, examples of weak corrective actions, and I really loved it. And he had a few different categories of corrective actions. The first one was can't close. Okay, it's a corrective action that you can't actually close it out. Not only can you not close it out, a lot of times you really can't even do it.
Right.
And so here's some words to look out for: assure, ensure, assure.
Okay.
So if you see a corrective action that says ensure that employees follow all procedures.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number one, I don't know how you make sure that happens.
Exactly.
Number two, you can't close it out.
Right.
Right? So
it's open-ended.
So it may sound great. People write corrective actions that sound wonderful, but do they work?
Right.
So that's a can't close. The next one is what we call pass the buck.
Okay.
So I've got to fix something. I'm
Never
just going to give it to you, and I'm just going to walk away. So here's some words to look out for pass the buck corrective actions: review, recommend, and study.
Okay.
So, recommend that the safety department study the matter. Okay? So you write it up, you close it out, and nothing happens.
Right. And
maybe they do review it, and maybe they make some changes, but in my experience, it's probably
that
not
one's
that
also
reliable.
hard to close too. So.
Oh, it is. Well, you can find out if they reviewed it,
Right.
but all they have to do is say, I reviewed it. Right?
Exactly.
And then the last one is what we call hidden discipline, right? I mean, when we think of discipline, we think, well, we're going to fire somebody or we're going to give them a day off, but there's other ways to discipline people. Here are the words to look out for: remind, review, counsel, or present. So review with employees all the procedures.
Right.
Okay. So really, all I'm doing it's just hidden discipline. It doesn't really actually fix anything. And then present. So I take a frontline employee that made a mistake, and I make them get up in front of the shift briefing in front of 50 of their friends and colleagues, and I make them present how they messed up yesterday. So it's not really it's not really an effective
On paper,
technique.
they sound good. On paper.
They do.
Yes.
And by the way, these three buckets of weak corrective actions, they're not mutually exclusive. In other words, you can combine them. So for example, listen to this one. Ensure employees follow all procedures and recommend the safety department study compliance and review all findings with all employees. See,
That sounds very extensive, doesn't it?
It sounds great, doesn't it? I incorporated all the weak corrective actions into one sentence. And guess what? It sounds
powerful.
Do you realize that corrective action does absolutely nothing?
Doesn't do a thing.
It doesn't do anything. So there's some more homework for you.
That's some great examples.
when you look at your reports and you see if your corrective actions were on the weak side of that matrix that I showed you, also be on the lookout for those words. And if you start to see those words, again, we're trying to help you, and what we've done is just show you why you have repeat incidents.
Wow.
So
basically, all this boils down to is without effective corrective actions, your investigation is not complete.
it's not. It's not.
And then you could go one little step further, making sure that you share what you've learned throughout the whole entire organization. Don't keep it to yourself.
Absolutely. If you work at a big company and you've had an incident in one site, if you come up with some good fixes, you really should have a lessons learned program to be able to distribute that throughout the company.
We don't want it to happen in any division.
Yeah, one of our clients told a pretty interesting story to me a while back. They had had an ongoing problem, it happened several times, and they came up with some really, really great fixes. And so they were really happy with it. It eliminated the problem, and it was great. But later, they found out that a different region had solved that problem 3 years ago.
And it could have stopped theirs.
Guess what they found out next?
No.
Another region had solved it 5 years ago. Okay, so 3 groups had worked on it, when in reality, if that first group would have shared it, it would have gone away 5 years ago. And so, I think that's really important as well. And, so have good corrective actions, have good follow-up, by the way.
Absolutely.
You can't just write a corrective action and put your report in the file cabinet. You have to follow up on it, make sure it was effective, make sure it actually got done, and everything like that. And if you really put some effort into corrective actions, then your incidents are going to start to go down. By the way, this is not just for investigations. This is for audits.
Right, and we love for people to do that.
Absolutely, because again, like we said in the beginning, you've got to have good root causes in order to have good corrective actions.
Yes.
And in TapRooT, what we teach is, in the beginning of an investigation, we don't worry about corrective actions yet. We worry about what happened.
Yes.
We document what happened. We fully understand that. Once we understand what happened, then we find out why by doing root cause analysis.
Yes.
And only once we understand why do we move on into corrective actions.
Exactly.
And so, it's a complete system. It's a closed loop. If any piece of that is lacking, you're not going to have effective fixes, and you're going to continue to have repeat incidents.
And TapRooT takes you through that exact process, step-by-step, tools. I mean, it's complete. I mean, you need to push it on out after you've learned everything.
That's right.
Push it out to the rest of the class so they all know what's going on and what you've learned. But, Dave, this is really golden information. I mean, I was saying this book's golden. The whole thing. I mean, between doing that, going through those procedures, going through the TapRooT investigation, coming to the corrective actions, fixing safeguards if they need to be fixed, things like that, and then sharing with everybody else to make sure. These things should help you keep incidents from happening over and over and over. It really should help put an end to your repeat incidents.
Yeah, it's real frustrating when you have the same things happen over and over again.
Right, and costly, and and dangerous.
It is.
So
we don't want to fix things more than once. We want to fix them right the first time.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, thank you so much. This was a really great conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. I love the part of Ken Turnbull's. That was really eye-opening.
Yeah, well, the first time he showed it to me, I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, I mean, it's great.
We've all seen these words in our reports.
And it sounds good.
I've never put those words
didn't
in
do
my
it.
reports, but, everybody else does. So, yeah.
Well, it's awesome. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got some good information out of that. If you need to get some people trained in TapRooT, we're happy to help you do that so that you can learn this entire process and stop repeat incidents from happening, or stop incidents from happening if at all possible. That's the name of the game right there. But if they do happen, let's figure out a way to not let them happen again. So we are so happy you joined us this week. We know your time's really valuable. Join us on our other social media media platforms, and because we're putting out all this kind of information all the time. Share this with somebody if you think that they need this information. And Dave, thank you for being here.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody watching. We
Yes.
appreciate you joining us on TapRooT TV. We hope to see you next time.
We do. We'll see you next week.